Voilà.
Moi, j'aurais dû mes chaises.
Tu vois, je te l'ai dit.
C'est bien. Screenshot en détail.
Okay, everybody, welcome to today's live stream. So today we are going to sit down with the Substance Designer team. Hey guys, all right, sorry about that. Just one small little audio hiccup there. Hold on. Okay, all right. So, okay, everybody, welcome to today's live stream. So today, like I said, we are going to sit down with the Substance Designer team. This is going to be part of our Meet the Team series. And so what we're going to do is just go through and just talk about, you know, the history of Designer. We're going to talk about some interesting things with some new features and so on. So today, what we have with us here is our Substance Designer team. Myself here, my name is Wes McDermott. So I'm Integrations Product Manager. And with us, we have Nicolas, Sylvain, and Céline. So guys, go ahead and give yourself a round of introduction here.
So, hello everyone. I'm Nicolas Wirrmann. I'm the product manager of Substance Designer, and I've been working at Algorithmic since 2008. And so, yeah.
Hi everyone. I am Sylvain Paris. I am the lead software engineer of Substance Designer, and I am at Algorithmic since 2009.
Hi everyone, I'm Céline Dameron. I'm at Algorithmic for a year and a half now, and I'm lead QA analyst, and I mainly work on Designer.
Okay, great. Thanks, guys. So what we're going to do, like I said today, is we're just going to jump in and just start just kind of talking about some things. Let's start with our release. So we just had a new Substance Designer release this summer 2018. And so with that, we had a lot of really interesting things. And so guys, we're just going to kind of start talking about that. So you guys want to just start kind of talking about some of the features that we had?
Yeah, so in this version, as you can see, we have changed the UI quite a lot. The goal was to be to have the same style as Substance Painter. So we modified the style and the sliders, as you can see. And also we have added some things like you can now undock the window and make them floating over the UI. And a few other things that you will probably discover. And here you can see we have some tools to align the nodes. And another feature that is that we tagged as experimental because we saw that it has some impacts on the performances, at least for now, and we're still working on it, is the contextual editing. So basically the idea is to, when you edit a subgraph, you can, you will actually see the inputs. The inputs will be the ones that when you instantiate a node, you plug images to the node, and when you enter the subgraph, you actually see the images you have plugged to this node. So it makes the edition of subgraphs a lot easier. So it's still experimental. We are working on it to make it, not so that it does not impact the performance anymore.
So Nicolas, you guys with the bakers, I know that we did some work on the bakers. We recently did some video tutorials on, you know, kind of the summer 2018 update. Didn't really cover the bakers. Could you kind of mention a little bit about what's kind of changed here?
Yeah, so for this version, we actually the bakers we are constantly working on the bakers because they are I mean they are an important part of the workflow in Painter and Designer. And as you can see for this version, we have greatly improved the performances. In the video that you are displaying, we are rendering 37 building tiles at 2K. And we basically have a factor 5 in terms of render time. So it's quite a major improvement. And we are still working on the bakers, so users can expect more performance improvement in the future.
Okay, so some other things that were pretty big about this release is a lot of new content. One in particular node that is actually really quite awesome was the shape splatter node. And so we did have some video tutorials and things like that we launched on that. So Nicolas, you're kind of you're the dev behind this. And so it'd be really cool to get a little bit of feedback from you on how you go about creating something like this. Like I for one, and most of everybody I've talked to is completely amazed at how you come up with something like this. Like I look at this and it's like magical. I'm like, how does he come up with this? Do you like go off into some like magic room and then come out and it's like, wow, here you have this, or how did you come up with this?
So at the beginning, it was like 2 months ago, I think. Vincent Go wanted to make a filter based on the tile sampler where you could input normal maps. And when you rotate normal maps, you actually have to correct the normal map so that you get the right information in your normal. So he basically modified the tile sampler so that he could do that specifically. But at some point, I said to him that it was not really the best solution. The right solution would be to actually redo the tile sampler, but with a pixel processor. And in the pixel processor, we could directly, make the computation, the right computation per pixel. So I thought that let's try to make this this tile sampler, but with a pixel processor. So I tried. I actually tried a few months back, and I failed. So I thought that I would try again, and this time it worked. And so I continued working on it for almost 2 months, I think.
Yes.
Because every day we make a stand-up meeting and we say what we're working on, and every day I was saying that I was working on this. So yeah, basically it's made with a pixel processor, and to be honest, it's not rocket science. I mean, it's usually known as texture bombing. You can find that in many softwares. The idea is just to generate UV coordinates, and when you have UV coordinates, you can basically put a pattern instead of the UV coordinates. And yeah, it's just that the shape splatter is kind of specialized for shapes that are based on height maps. That's basically the only thing that is very special about that.
Well, I'm sure everybody's glad to hear that you didn't give up and that you tried again, because yeah, this actually ended up being a very, very cool addition to Substance Designer. So yeah, just kind of looking over some of these other features here, we can see like, just some results of some artists. Céline, here's one by you that you did. So yeah, just looking through a couple other things here. Again, we have a course on Substance Academy, which is covering all this. So just kind of get to some of the things that are probably most interesting. Let's see here. Yeah, this is one that I see some questions on, Nicolas, quite often, is the improvements that you've made here to the flood fill and things like that. Do you want to talk to any of this at all?
So it's not me, and I'm not behind the flood fill. It's actually Daniel, one of the developer of Designer, that is behind this node. So to be honest, it's a lot more complicated than the shape splatter. But yeah, he made the first version of the float fill that worked great, but it did not work very well as soon as you had some holes in the shapes. So it was a problem, and he worked on this quite a long time, and he managed to find a solution. So that's why we now have this new version of the float fill.
It's awesome. Let's see. And the other thing that I kind of want to talk about while we're here, we'll get down to the new Python API and things like that. So here, I'll just switch over to you guys. We'll come off that. So with this summer 2018 release, we have a new Python API in Substance Designer, and this is, this is a huge move in kind of a new direction with Designer. Sylvain, can you talk a bit about kind of the inception and how this worked out, how the Python API came to be in the summer 2018 release?
Yes, sure. In fact, for many years, we always wanted to add lots of features. Everyone wanted to add, for example, alignments and some small feature and small specific services into Designer. But the issue was that we always had more tasks to do that were more prioritized, with a higher priority. And one of the solutions was to provide to the users a way to let them create their own plugins, in fact, directly in Designer. So the solution was to integrate Python language directly into the software and let them do what they exactly wanted to do. So this is the first step of the integration, because for now the API only allow to read data that are created into the software, but we plan to enhance this API to expose to the user all the features we are currently able to do inside the main application. So this is only the beginning of this feature. This is very important for us.
Yeah, that's really awesome. And yeah, I know you've kind of explained that to me before about this being like the first step. So when you say kind of bring all the features of Substance Designer, it'll be like something where we could write a plugin that could create Designer nodes and make connections and things like that. Is that kind of where we're heading with this?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So yeah, that kind of just wraps up the kind of the summer 2018 release. We just wanted to kind of briefly go over it just a bit, since it's, it's new and everything. But yeah, this stream is more about, like, again, just meeting the team and everything. And like I said, we've got just a few people with us here. But before we jump into kind of the beginnings of Designer, I do want to kind of talk a little bit about the team as well. So you guys are kind of representing the Designer team here, but how big is the team?
So we are, well, it depends. We have three main developers, so Sylvain, Luc, and Daniel, and me as the product manager. But we also have people working on the bakers. At the moment, there are two developers working on the bakers. And there are also people working on the Substance engine, but they don't work on this full time. It's only when it's required. There are two people working on the Substance engine. And of course, the QA, so there is Céline and another Luc working on the QA and support. So I hope I don't forget anyone. That's basically the team for Designer.
And the team for Designer, you guys are all located in Clermont, that's correct, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, great. So yeah, like we said, it's got you guys representing the team for now, but also just give a big shout out to all the other guys and everybody else on the team back in France. You know, we really appreciate everything you guys are doing. And so again, it's cool to just have these moments where you guys can talk to the community and they can get to know, you know, the faces behind the product and things like that. So speaking of that, though, we have Substance Designer, and this is the summer 2018 release, but Designer goes back quite a bit. So it's much older than probably most people think. So can you guys talk, let's talk a little bit about the start of Designer, like where did it come from?
So before Designer, there was a tool called MapZone. MapZone was the very first product of the company. And MapZone was at first a Photoshop plugin. So it was it was quite a pain to use because you had your image and you had to go to the plugin menu and select algorithmic MapZone. And then you had the UI and you could apply a filter on your image. So you could only do that, apply a filter. It was basically a noise on top of your image, and that's all. After that, we ported that plugin as a standalone application, and then here we had the graph. So that's maybe the image you are showing. You had this graph where you can recognize the FX map on top, and the nodes were almost the same nodes as what we have in Designer right now.
So what we're kind of showing here on the screen right now, this is like the early map zone, is that correct?
Yeah, actually this one is the map zone 2, I think. So yeah, we already had the graph, the 2D view, and we actually already had the 3D view, but it's not displayed on the screen. So we could already pre-visualize the material with diffuse, specular, and normal channels. And yeah, it was actually it was pretty cool at this time. But you didn't have all the subgraphs. For example, the subgraphs didn't exist at this time. So you had to redo everything all the time to get an effect.
Oh, yeah. So I think when we talked about this before, you guys had mentioned there was a game that was shipped using Unreal Editor 3. Yeah,
so initially, the goal for Algorithmic was to promote the technology behind the software. So and MapZone was basically the editor for the middleware that was called PureFX at this time. And the idea was to, instead of exporting bitmaps, you just exported not the substance because it was not called substance, the procedural description file. And in the game, you will generate the textures at runtime or at loading time or whenever you needed the textures. So there is a game that was called RoboBlitz. It was the first Unreal Engine 3 game actually to be released, and the entire game fitted in a USB key that was 50 megabytes at this time. So the whole game, including the engine, the textures, the asset, everything was in 50 megabytes. So it was quite an achievement. Because yeah, the reason why it was 50 megabytes, it's because it was the limit for the Xbox platform. I don't remember exactly the name, where you could indies could publish all their games, and it was the limit that was the maximum size limit. So yeah, we had basically had to reproduce bitmap textures and translate the bitmaps into procedural textures using MapZone. And we spent quite a lot of time doing that with two of my colleagues at this time.
Yeah. Yeah, so then there was MapZone, and at what point did that transition into, or the start of Substance Designer? Like this, I will say Substance Designer 1. How did that come about?
So Designer 1, I think it was in 2009 or 10. We don't have the exact date, but yeah, it was around 2010.
Ah,
So
2010, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have an interface here. This, what I'm showing here, this is Substance Designer 1, is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, not I guess not too far, I mean, away from where we are today, but yeah, quite a bit different.
Yeah, actually some components have not changed much, like the package explorer is very similar, the graph, the parameters, the style obviously is different, but overall the main components are still the same. And yeah, the goal for Substance was to introduce the concept of subgraphs. You create graphs that you instantiate in other graphs, so you don't have to redo the same thing over and over.
Okay, so yeah, right before we go on, we have one user question here that's actually quite important, I think, is someone's asking what that shape is on the table, right in front of you, Céline. We have there's an object right down the table. What is that?
It's a fake coral.
Yeah. That's pretty beautiful.
Yeah.
Could be a great substance. That's a coral, but
Yeah, you can notice the pattern that looks like a reaction diffusion filter, but maybe you don't see it on the picture, on the image.
Yeah. So it's an inspirational piece then. That's what it is. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So I have a note here. It says at the beginning, Substance Designer was not sold as a product, but it was basically what is it? Maybe bundled together with the engine, the Substance engine.
Yeah, because at this time, again, the goal was to mainly sell the technology and not the software. And the Substance Designer was bundled with the middleware. So it was not sold on its own like it is today.
So in the beginning, I guess we had Substance Engine first, and that was the technology, and then Substance Designer was built. Or I guess Map Zone and Substance Designer was coming from that technology. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. And it's only since Designer 2 that we start selling the software as a standalone product.
Okay, and so yeah, one thing I'll kind of mention, the first time that I ever had, I guess, any exposure to an algorithmic product. Let's see here. Let me come back over to my screen. Was this tool here? So you know, I come from I was a Moto guy, so you know, following around with Luxology from when they first started creating Moto, and I remember a tool that started off as a Photoshop plugin called ImageSynth. Then it was created into ImageSynth 2 as a little standalone application, but you could basically take, you know, images, break it into chunks to make a tileable texture. And I remember seeing a little note about this tool called Powered by Algorithmic. And so that was my first time seeing that. Can you guys talk a little bit about ImageSynth and, you know, what that partnership was about?
So this tool, it was developed by mainly Céline Dameron, who is now the CTO of Algorithmic. It's not really related to the technology of Substance, but it was still related to textures. So yeah, it made sense that we distribute this product. And yeah, the goal was to generate high resolution textures, tiling textures based on smaller samples. So you could take some patches and create a tiling texture, and it automatically computed the best seam between your patches, so that you don't see the cut between the patches. So yeah, that's what this tool did, and it worked pretty well.
Yeah, I remember that tool. I used it all the time. I absolutely loved it. And I thought, man, this is such a great technology. And I got so intrigued myself seeing like, what is algorithmic? I mean, who made this, you know? And that's kind of when I first started to kind of searching out you guys. Yeah, okay. So kind of switching gears a bit, we had a user ask a question that's going to kind of lead us into our next topic. But the user was asking, like, you know, what was happening in the industry when we hit, probably around when we hit critical mass, you know, becoming like a middleware standard. And so kind of something that we kind of discussed beforehand was, you know, part of that turning point for Algorithmic, you know, Designer being in development for so long and Algorithmic as a company being around for so long, you know, where do you guys see the turning point when we really started to become a software that you see used every day?
So I guess it's a question for me again. So yeah, it was which year was it? It was around the version 4 of Designer. Actually, the version 4 of Designer was co-designed with people working at Naughty Dog. So they were working on the Uncharted 4 at this time, and they decided to base most of their texturing workflow on Designer. So they had specific requests. And at this time, Sylvain was the only developer working on Designer. So they had lots of features, and we started implemented all these features. And at the same time, PBR started to be developed. So we integrated the PBR shader and the 3D view, and we basically switched from the old specular glossiness to the PBR workflow. And it's approximately at the same time where we also started working on Substance Painter. And I guess that's Painter was the software that was the real turning point in the history of Algorithmic. But we saw the change at the same time. And also for designers specifically, the turning point was also caused by the bakers, I think. When we first introduced the bakers, it's when we could texture not only we could not only create tiling textures, you know, but also texturize full object using the bake maps. And by including the bakers in Designer, we could have the full texturing workflow in Designer, baking the maps and then texture the full asset.
And that was around Substance Designer 3, is that right? When the bakers kind of came in?
Yeah, the first version of the bakers was in Designer 3.
Yeah, so right around Substance Designer 4, that's when I actually started as an employee at Algorithmic. So yeah, I definitely remember that time. It was PBR was starting to just now become a thing, and it was it was a big change because I had remember before working at Algorithmic using the tools and things like that, but then seeing this whole change with PBR. Another thing that I have a note on is that. This is around the same time, the first time that we sold the tool on Steam. So we released Substance Designer on Steam as well. I think that was around Substance Designer 4. Is that right?
Yeah, yes, if I remember well, it should be near this date, yes. Steam was, in fact, for us a way to touch people, not only studios, but also individual people such as indies or other people that we did not manage to touch with standard distribution. So it was very important for us to release also our tools on Steam. Yeah.
Okay, and kind of another note, I think, Sylvain, you had brought this up when I was talking to you about this, was kind of another big turning point was the integration of iRay and kind of a partnership with MDL. So I think, was it Substance Designer 6 that we started to integrate MDL and iRay? Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. We start to integrate MDL and iRay into Designer in partnership with NVIDIA. And it was a big step for us because it was the first time we transform a designer, substance designer, to make it evolve to a real material editor and adding a new technology near substance itself. And it allows us to touch other industry, such as the automotive industry and also VFX, for example, and also the design. Yeah, that's very important here.
All right, so very good. So all in all, I guess when we look at the whole kind of timeline, we started talking about map zone and the engine and designer and moving forward from there. How long has designer been in existence or been in development now? Like how many years are we looking at, you think?
I would say we start to work on designer around 2009, if I remember, something like that. Yeah. The beginning, if I remember, the team was was composed by 4 people, and we grew to at some point I was alone, and at the other point we grew to 5 people. Yeah, and but it makes around 10 years we are working on it.
All right, guys. So yeah, let's now kind of shift gears a little bit and talk a bit about how I guess how the design process works. Well, in Designer, I guess how do you guys make Designer? Thinking about in terms of the features and things like that. Like how do you implement features? Like I think one thing that's kind of interesting for our users to know is okay, so we started on say summer 2018. How do you guys decide what goes into a release? How does that process work?
So it's lots of discussion and also lots of feedbacks from the community, including studios and users. So we constantly visit studios, both VFX and games, and also studios from the other industry as well. And so we constantly get feature requests from all these people, and the goal for each new release is to make the wide selection. I mean, of features. It means that the features that are doable in a specific amount of time with a specific amount of human resources, and with features that make sense considering the problems that users have on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, our goal is to make the job of our user a bit. I mean, we want to help people work faster and better and so on. So we try to listen to them and implement the feature that they are waiting for. That's the goal.
Yeah, so kind of the next question is going to kind of lead into for you, Céline. So we had someone ask a question, and they were just asking what your role in the company is, Céline. They've actually made the comment that they've seen some cool substances with your name on them. So just interested in what you do. And so that's going to bring me to the next question was, what happens in the process when, say, someone submits there's a crash report or there's a bug that they want to submit? Can you give us a little insight into that? First, tell us about your role though in Substance.
Okay, so I test Designer first to check the pipeline, the workflow is still correct after developers make changes. And then I also handle technical support. So I collect crashes and bugs and give them to devs to fix it. And then I test again to check that it's fixed.
And you're one of 2 QAs that are dedicated to Designer, right? So Luke is our other QA specialist.
Exactly.
Okay. And so can you give us, I guess a kind of a fun question is, do you have, Can you remember a time like I don't know, the craziest crash you saw, or some kind of just the craziest? Do you have like a story of like, oh, this was like the worst bug to find or something like that?
Not the worst, but it happened Wednesday on the very last release. We received a crash. It was about a crash when linking two nodes. I was investigating on it for months, but I have no repo because our job when we receive a crash is to reproduce a crash in order to have a repo step to give to devs. So I was searching for a way to reproduce this, and Wednesday a user sent us crazy repo steps. It was like creating two gradient nodes, a noise. You plug this noise in the first gradient, you take the node, the link, you hold shift, you keep the link, you release shift, you hold alt, you plug in the second node, boom. That's crazy. Of course, that's crazy. No one does this. So that's the craziest. But we saw very, very weird thing during the production too.
Yeah, so one thing that I see asked, or sometimes people ask me, is like, what's the best way to kind of get support if they have questions and things like that? And I always kind of point them to our forums. So from a QA perspective, would you say like just getting in touch with you guys in our forums? I think one of the things that makes Algorithmic pretty unique is a lot of our devs, even very high level devs, will spend time in the forums and interacting with our users. So I think that's pretty great. But so yeah, would you say just if they have something, they can try, submitting this feedback or something in the forums?
It depends on what you need. In fact, if you have a crash, it's better to send your crash report via our crash reporter. We check crash reports every morning, except when we're close to release day. We are focused on QA. But if you have little issues on your workflow or pipeline, it's better to go on forum. We have an amazing community, so they are here to help. We are here too, but we mainly focus on bugs and crash.
Okay, great. So far we've talked about the new release, what we have for that. We talked a bit about kind of the history of Designer and where things where things started. We also kind of did a little bit of talk about how features, where feature requests come from, where they get implemented, our focus on getting feedback from studios and so on. So now I think what we'd like to do is just kind of open things up for a Q&A. So everyone watching, if you have some questions, just throw them into the chat. We have some people from Algorithmic actually monitoring as well. So if you guys have some questions here for the team, we'd love to take a chance just to answer them one-to-one here and, just kind of have like a little bit of an open dialogue. I think we have a few questions that I'm going to send you guys' way here. Let's see. I'm just going to kind of go through the list. There was one question that kind of went back from earlier, was a little bit something with the UI. The question was, can we resize the UI for 4K monitors? So I guess with HDPI, like I guess talking about high res displays like 4K monitors, do we have support for that in Designer already?
Yeah, I think we do. It's supposed to automatically scale, but I know that because of limitation of Qt, the library that we use for drawing the application, you can only use 100 or 200% scaling in the Windows preferences. So if you choose something in between, it doesn't work very well. So yeah, it's supposed to work.
Yeah, there's a preference for that, I believe. I've seen it where you go in, I think it's under General, you go Edit, Preferences, General, and then you can enable scaling for HDPI monitors.
Actually, it's the other way around. You can go to the preferences to disable the HDPI.
Oh, okay. So it's on by default already. Okay.
So normally, automatically, it should work.
Okay, perfect. All right, so here I'm just going to kind of run through. Let's see what kind of questions we have coming through in here. Let's see. So another one here. Just give me a second. Okay, so one here is asking about language support, asking specifically about Russian language support. So I know that we're looking at supporting different languages with our software tools. And I know that with Painter, we did release a Japanese version. Is that the same with Designer? Do we have translated versions for Designer yet?
Yes, we have Japanese, Korean, and that's all.
Yeah, but to be honest, it's not the thing that we regularly update. So the current state might not be, yeah, perfect. So that's something, it's quite complicated actually to, multi-languages is complicated because, well, we have to freeze the UI long before the release so that translators can do their job. But actually, we constantly modify things in the UI, so it's very hard to actually stop making changes in the UI. And yeah, that's something we actually have to work on for the future, is having a process that is a bit more organized so that we can update the language regularly. But hopefully, the system around this will evolve and it will make things a bit more easier.
Okay, thanks. And I think I actually misspoke earlier with Painter. I think we just recently released a Chinese version of that. So kind of the next question, this one comes up quite a bit, so it'd be kind of good for us to kind of, talk about it a little bit. But we get a lot of people asking for support for Blender. And one of the things that we have with Designer, of course, is the, the integration plugins. Hey, just a shout out to the Akron team. I know those guys are watching. Hey, what's up, guys? I know that people ask quite a bit for, hey, are we ever going to have a plugin for Blender or anything like that? So I don't know if you guys can talk a bit about that or anything.
Well, I know that we hear that a lot, but the last time we have heard about that, there was some legal issue regarding any potential integration of the Substance engine in Blender. So I'm not sure it has changed since then. So it's still at the same point. We can't really do much because of the the licenses and stuff like that. So,
yeah, I know. Yeah, last I heard about it internally it wasn't something like that we were choosing not to do. So we definitely want to just assure all the users who are on Blender that we do care about that software and we deeply care about that community as well. So it's not like we're trying to just we don't care. It's last I heard that it's something that we would love to do, and that we have our legal teams looking into different avenues and things that we can take. But of course, we don't have any news to share on that. But anyways, just wanted to kind of give a shout out to those using Blender that it's definitely something that we do think about. So kind of, let's see here. Let me just run through another question here. Okay, here's one. Someone was asking a question about trying to approve some purchase order for Designer, and they just wanted to know if it would integrate with Legacy, 3ds Max 2015, and Unity 5. With that, I think they could be talking about, I guess, the published substances and using the plugin, which in that case I can say that with Unity 5 that we do have a native integration in that, as the Substance plugin was natively integrated in Unity. So in Unity 5 there is support for that. Same thing with 3ds Max. There is a native version of that, and we did an updater which allows you to use some of the more recent versions of the Substance engine with that. So again, just check out our 3ds Max forum on our official algorithmics forums, and you'll see there's a post about exactly how that would work. But with that, I think that we could also say for some of the things with like Designer that I think is kind of interesting is if you don't have a specific plugin that works with your tool set, Designer also exports textures. So Nicolas, that's probably maybe something you could share about some of the things you've seen in studios and things like that. Like I know one thing that's really cool is that Designer will export textures. You can set up to export in background. So whenever you make a node change, it will, you know, export textures in the background and things like that. So, you know, in Studio, you see a lot of that, right? Where they're just batch exporting textures out of Designer.
Yeah. There's an option in the export window where you can that you enable, and as soon as you make a modification in the graph, it will automatically export the textures to disk. So if on the other side you have an application that can auto reload the textures, you basically have a live link between the two applications. So it can be very helpful if you don't have a native integration of Substance.
Yeah. So one of the things, if you're watching the stream and you are kind of new to Substance and you're just checking this out, you know, Designer doesn't have to be used with an actual plugin in, say, your DCC or game engine, DCC app or game engine. I mean, you can just export the textures right out of Designer and work with those. So kind of in that case, one of the things we had a question talking about, let's see, texturing large areas and also resources, any good learning materials for texturing large areas, resources out there that for how to use UDIM within Designer. So off the top of my head, I'm not really sure about that. I know that we have a course on Designer that I think we have in, I think we have a tutorial on Academy that kind of talks about the UDIM workflow that we've added. But Nicolas, from that, I kind of wanted to ask you a bit about that as well. Like, in one of our previous updates, we did add UDIM support to Designer. Can you talk just a little bit about that process?
Yeah, so yeah, it was a request from some VFX studios to be able to texture UDIM assets directly in Designer. And well, we made it's a first version of the UDIM support in Designer. You basically create a graph, and usually when you texture an asset, you start from baked maps, the occlusion, curvature, and stuff like that. So we had to support the baking I mean, we had to support UDIM assets in the bakers as well. And what you can do now in Designer is take the resources that you have created using the bakers, like the ambient occlusion and curvature. And these resources, it will be a single resource, but each resource will contain all the maps that correspond to all the UDIM tiles. But the idea is to have a single graph to texture the whole asset. So basically, in the graph, you will have a drop-down list listing all the UDIM tiles of your asset. And when you switch from one UDIM tile to another, the resources will automatically be updated according to the UDIM tile you have selected. So this way, you have a single graph and you texture the whole asset. That's the idea. And then when you are done texturing, you go to the export menu and you can compute all the UDIM tiles at a specific resolution, because the process of generating the final textures is not in Designer, it's externalized. So, yeah, we have the full pipeline, baking the maps, creating the maps using a graph, and then exporting the maps. So it's a first version because right now, because of technical limitation, I would say, we can't pre-visualize all the tiles at the same time in the 3D view. You can only visualize the current tile you are editing. So we'll see how people use the feature, and again, they ask for improvement on this side. We will consider working on this even more, and maybe offer the visualization of multiple UDIM tiles in the graph or in the 3D view.
All right. Okay. So another question that came in that's pretty interesting is they were just asking about like pie menus. You know, I guess coming if you look at maybe marking menus from Maya or something like that. Is that something that you think that we could look into adding into Designer at some point?
Well, file menu, I'm not sure because maybe there are some patents on this kind of UI, but improving the spacebar menu, the menu you get when you hit the spacebar, that's something we have in mind for the future. I can't give a lot of details, but yeah, that's something that we definitely want to improve because it's the thing that you use the most in Designer, and it definitely needs some improvement.
Yeah. I guess you can't say anything too much just yet, but yeah, I know it's something that I think I've talked to you about before, Nicolas. So yeah, we'll see where that goes. So let's see here. Just kind of running through just a few more questions. Okay, here's one that's kind of fun. Are there any new nodes planned for future Designer releases that you're particularly excited about, but they're not secret yet? So something you could talk about. Maybe there is. We'll just say no for now about that.
Let me think. Well, I do have a bunch of nodes, new things on my folders on my workstation, but I can't really tell much about it. So yeah, we try to keep things secret for the future. And anyway, we never really know in advance what we will really put in the next version. Like I said, the shape splatter node, it was not planned at the beginning. It was during the production of this version that we actually decided to put it in this version. So yeah, I took the habit not to promise anything for future release.
Yeah, well, I gotta say, Nicolas, as I look at you as a magician, basically with the kind of stuff that you do, so it's like you know the magician can't reveal his tricks. I always envision like you just going up into this, oh, I'm gonna come up with a new feature, go up into this mountain, do your magic stuff, and then come back and we have something awesome like shape splatter. So I'm just gonna keep that visualization in my head that's what you're kind of doing there.
But I know that Daniel helps me a lot working on new filters, and he has some crazy ideas linked to the float fill. He wants to extend the possibilities of the float fill in future release.
Yeah, Daniel. Yeah, he's another member of the team that I am just thoroughly impressed with. I mean, just the level of that guy's intelligence is just, I don't know, just really makes you feel stupid. Like I talk to him and I'm like, look, everything that I'm going to ask you is probably going to be a really stupid question. So I'm sorry up front. But yeah, I mean, you guys are all extremely brilliant. So it's, I got to say from my perspective, it's a great honor to even get a chance to work with you guys. So let's see here. A few other questions coming in. Here's one. So somebody was asking, well, they asked about Painter as well, but we'll keep this Designer. Will Designer ever support C++ extensions? Not really 100% sure about what that question is, but I don't know, maybe you guys have an idea?
For now, we prefer to concentrate on the extension of Designer based on Python plugins. And yeah, this is the current direction of the software. Providing an API in C++ is not the actuality for now. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Here's another question that I think's really good too. So, do you think automatically updating imported materials from Designer into Painter will be available in the future? Do we have any plans to have more of like a live link between these two applications? Can you guys speak to that at all?
Well, I guess there is a will to do that, but to be honest, it's more on the Painter team to improve the feature. It's not really on the Designer team to do that.
Yeah. Okay.
But maybe we could think about like publishing the Substance directly to the shelf folder of Painter. That's the kind of thing we could do. But anything related to auto-updating resources in Painter is on Painter side.
Okay, yeah, I think the clarification on that was, yeah, make a change in design and have it auto update seamlessly in Painter. So yeah, that would be something on the Painter side, because as you mentioned earlier, Nicolas, Designer does have the capability to export outputs on Node Update or whatever already.
Yeah, but for now you can't. There is no feature to publish the substance file on the graph change. I guess that's something that could be done using the Python API, maybe. But since we call it the cooking process, when you export the SBS AR file, it's called the cooking. It can take some time, so that's usually something you don't want to do continuously. So yeah.
Okay, thanks, guys. Just kind of running through here, asking our team if they had any other questions they were trying to relay. Let's see. You know, actually, I think I have one for myself here. So I know that we have the automation toolkit as part of a tool set, and now we're starting to add the Python API with the December 2018. Do you guys see these products that we have kind of converging in the future, where, you know, automation toolkit basically wraps into the API? And another thing too that I think might be interesting to talk about is the automation toolkit is based on some batch processes that we have from Designer as well.
What we plan for Substance Automation Toolkit is to make the actual users of the Python API keep the script compatible with the new API we are providing with Substance Designer. So we will provide some tools to make sure that our existing users that are using the SAT will be able to continue using it. Yeah. The new API we are providing with Designer will be enhanced in the future. So as soon as the features that we integrate in this API will reach the level of the existing Python API of SAT, we will do a wrapper around it to make the existing script compatible. Yeah.
Okay, and so I guess one other kind of thing that we maybe could talk about is like with Designer and its usage in various studios and things like that. It seems from what from what I've seen is like a lot of that can come into play because of the ability to automate Designer and how it works. Nicolas, can you speak a little bit about how you've seen that come into play in different studios and how they're able to use Designer as a pipeline tool?
Well, we see many different things actually. In some studios we have seen very smart things built around the Substance tools, mainly Designer and the batch tools. And batch tool was the old name of SAT. And this guy sometimes build their own tools around our tools. So they adapt the tools so that it fits in their pipeline to automate completely some operations like the texturing of assets. And for example, I think the most impressive things I've seen was at the Creative Assembly in UK, where they built the custom tool that was connected to their Perforce system, and basically in one click they could change the base material that was used by all the assets of the game. So it was very impressive. But I mean, it's not common. We see that in few studios because they have the time and the resources to build such a pipeline. But yeah, sometimes it's quite impressive to see that.
Yeah, it's definitely been impressive. I can even say in the time that since I started working here in the studios that I've been able to visit, it's been really amazing to see how Designer is taking off and becoming like a centerpiece of various texturing pipelines and things like that. And it's been extremely inspiring, and I'm sure for you guys as well to see that and see the work that you do and how much impact it's had on various industries. It has to be extremely rewarding. So here, I've got one last question for you guys that I'm going to throw out here. User was asking about, let's see here, lost my place. Is there any limitations on exporting maps higher than 8K? So I guess one of the things, Nicolas, it would be kind of cool if you could kind of clarify that, you know, we have our different engines and there's different resolutions that we can work with. And can you speak just a little bit about, you know, why there is some resolution caps and things like that?
Yeah, I can give some explanation. So we have the GPU engine, which can be either DirectX or OpenGL, depending if you're running on Windows or Mac. And we have the CPU engine, which is mainly used on other platforms like consoles or in Unity, for instance. And when we add a feature to the Substance engine, we have to make sure that the feature can be implemented on all the platforms. And the CPU engine was made to run as fast as possible. So it means that each atomic node is implemented as a special implementation to run the fastest as possible. And actually, to make an engine that supports 4K, for example, for the CPU, it basically means that we have to re-implement all the filters for this resolution. So it's quite time consuming. But the good news is that we have someone at Algorithmic who actually worked on the CPU engine, and it will be for the next release. It was supposed to be for the one we released last week, but we had to postpone it for the next release. The next CPU engine will support 32-bit floating point and will be able to render higher resolution image to 8K, at least for the moment. So for the next release, at least we will have both engine, CPU and GPU at the same level of features. And to go beyond the 8K limit, first we will have to make DirectX 12 version, and that's probably the most important. We will have to optimize lots of things in Designer so that user can actually work at this resolution, because it's quite challenging in terms of memory usage and rendering time and so on. So even if you have the DirectX 12 engine, we will have to work on optimizing the editor so that it supports this huge amount of data to process.
Okay, and I'm sorry, guys. I have one more question that I think is pretty vital here. So, the window scenery behind you, is that real or is that a photo backdrop?
No, it's real. It's real.
That's a good question. Yeah. So like that's Claremont behind you guys, right? So you're in the Designer offices now.
Yeah. It's almost sunset now. I can actually open the curtain so you can see. It will be. It's yeah, it's a real.
All right, so very, very good. Okay, guys, it's coming up on just a little over an hour now, so we're gonna close out. So I want to thank you guys very much for taking time to sit with me here and just kind of have a nice little chat about Designer. And, you know, we're all very impressed with the release and what you guys have done. And it's really great to be able to take time to, you know, speak to the community and things like that. And I also just want to also give another kind of shout out to the rest of the team who's not with you guys. I mean, like I said, there's a whole team behind it. And so just also get special shout out to all the other guys and developers who are working on the tool set. And again, thanks for all the hard work that you guys do there as well. So thanks, everybody. If you have any questions, we actually just posted in the chat a link to our Discord. So we have a Discord community. We also have our forum. So always, if you have any other questions, just jump in there. You'll see Nicolas, Sylvain, Céline. They're very active on that as well. And yeah, you post in our forums with questions, and there's always a good chance that one of the devs themselves is going to jump in there and ask. We try to keep pretty active with the community and everything. So thanks a lot, everybody, for taking time to join us. Nicolas, Sylvain, Céline, thank you. You guys enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll see everybody next time. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.